Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Capital Program Committee. It is June 6th, just at 3:30. This meeting is being audio video recorded. Anything you say or share will be shown on YouTube. Please act accordingly. There are no members of the public present. There won't be public comments. There are no members on Zoom. If there's any votes taken, it'll be a voice vote. And I think that pretty much covers us. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Brooklyn, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very unanimously. Okay, guys, so we're here today. We're going to try and keep it short to discuss once again plum enhancements. And couple quick things. Summary: this spreadsheet is getting to the point where it's ready for public viewing, and what I mean by that is to be sent out to the membership. To date, it's primarily been notes. Everything in white, I'm just scrolling through this, has been forwarded to white background has been forwarded to finance department to be for discussion on prioritization after plum reviews it to determine if they have questions, sort out any questions they have, and then price and timeline to work. So is that pretty accurate? Oh, can you hear you?
Can you repeat that?
I'm sorry. Just outlining what's happening next with plum.
I can give you a very quick update if you would like.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I have a chance.
So Brian and I met with Plum yesterday afternoon, actually almost yesterday evening, went through everything on your list. They had a couple of questions for Brian and I that we were able to answer, and they're going to go back and cost everything. And then we will, get back with you to let you know how that plays out.
Okay, that sounds good. And at some point, obviously, we need to work out prioritization. So as I said, we accomplished those items in white text. This will be after today's meeting. I think we'll be almost to the point where a PDF version will be circulated. So I think apropos a comment that's been surfacing is I will provide this final version for you too when we're ready to be posted to the website. People, much like with HTC, Planning Board, ZBA, Concom, information that's reviewed at a meeting is posted, and we've had that come up a couple of times. I think even at the last select board here, the last time we did a report. So it might be good if we have a work product. I don't think we need to do that at every meeting, but we could do it. Work that is of a successive nature, and it will be a final compilation we can post when we have it compiled. So where we are today is discussion items. I just wanted to touch base. One of the things we'll do once we have new members on will be our annual how-to and overview, kind of go through power user techniques, including search and sorting, various aspects of that. And then we'll be inputting new member and existing member. Since we changed definitions, we'll be inputting individual members' valuation of the line items of the criteria. That's that one. That's kind of my color notes. Brooke, you want to update on stuff? Or are you good with moving on to our next?
I am likely not going to be the Capcom rep.
Okay.
So I'm here for now to finish out this process, but
we appreciate it.
Yeah.
And questions today. Yeah, no question. So today we have these items to discuss: new criteria and grouping, and funding model segmentation, and how we want to try and work. I want to get a better beat on that and work it into some notes. So new criteria and grouping is not for this lift. This is forward looking for the fall. Basically what we're looking to do is identify criteria criterion we would like to add, what we would like to add. And what came up over the course of discussions was funding sources, which is a longstanding topic. And I'm just briefly going to show you. Basically, funding sources would be a line item that would be its own category. So the category could be valued against the other categories, and then we would value which type of funding source. It may be that there are even funding sources have their own categories, which may be, for instance, borrowing, and then other. This is our appendix F. It is a attachment to our annual report. It's meant to be informative for all of us as a reminder, and also persons who don't really know anything about municipal finance. And this gives them kind of a window into the funding methods, funding types.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is the idea ultimately to rank the preferability of different funding sources? Okay.
So when we get to that, the concept is to input these as a category and then as subcategories. What I would ask is for the next meeting is to take a look at Appendix F from our prior year's report, take a look at it, and be prepared to give me some feedback, and we'll wrap this up, hopefully. I think there's two questions. One, is this direction we want to go? And two, if we do we want to try and either summarize some of these groups to keep it simple, or do we want a higher level of detail so we have granularity? Those are the two questions I have of the membership. And if we want to address them now, we can, but if you want to do some homework, I'm happy to do it.
Can I ask why? So these come to us, presumably the department head has reviewed the funding source with finance?
This would be inputs based upon town manager and finance department's determinations of funding sources. So we would be probably, due to the timeline, the sequence of events, we would be going through, department heads would make their presentation. We would rank anything related to their presentation, except for funding sources. Towards the tail end of our process, funding sources are identified, and we could go through and kind of plug these in.
But are we ranking them, or they're just being added for informational purposes?
Well, the concept is from the DOR compact is to evaluate as a citizen advisory group funding sources per request. The idea of putting them into the RORI is, one, it systematizes the process. Two, it might incentivize, individually, we may have a different perspective on what we want, what we value as a citizen is more valuable. Like, some people may have no issue with Proposition 2.5 override. Some people may have an issue. So it gives everybody who is on the committee an opportunity to weigh in individually. And then, of course, as with all of these, there's a team average. It's another window into information that's relevant in the review process. And it gives us an opportunity to assign some level of value. Last thing I'll note is that given the variety of topics that we value towards the individual requests final value ranking, I don't anticipate this is going to be like a
Heavily weighted.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are going to go through and they're going to say funding source is important, but it's not as important as the cost. It's not as important as continuity. So it will have a value. It may even be just as like a hindsight tool.
But when I raised that, so from my perspective, was about, are grants available? Are we matching a grant? Are we trying to?
I see.
Are we trying to have funds available so that we can match a grant? Is there an enterprise fund balance that would be available to offset the cost of borrowing?
Okay.
That was kind of a thought there. It wasn't really about, does it come from a short-term borrowing or does it come from the general fund? Because that's a finance committee management of a balance sheet.
Yeah, that's what I kind of feel like. I'm not sure the value of us ranking those.
I
don't know.
I just
but-
wanted, I didn't want to rank it. I just wanted more information. So because when we went through the airport, we didn't know some things that I wanted to know, for instance, about the enterprise fund balance that's projected at the end of the year based on the budget. Someone told us late that we needed to approve something because there was a grant outstanding that we could apply for, or that we needed to match. Remember that? That was like, and
Well, we just approved one last night.
yeah,
Actually,
it'd be nice
we're
to have
outside of
known
town.
that to give, I would have ranked it, maybe, I might have ranked it differently. I don't know. We don't, who knows?
Well, this gives us opportunity to rank value. It also gives us an opportunity to have these in the ROI, so they're on
That's
the
the
front of our
point.
mind. So they're,
Okay.
the
Yeah,
utilities also.
You don't
the
have to dig through the
discussion
back end
point.
information. It's in
Well,
the.
I
It's
don't even mind digging through the back. If the airport had the information on it that I wanted to see, that's perfectly good because we're dealing with the airport. You know, I mean, we're not trying, we don't need a summary sheet of a summary schedule of all of that because they're all independent.
Okay.
I just thought that our,
It's in the parking lot.
Well, this is not a, we're doing this tomorrow.
Right.
This is
Yeah,
a, let's
right.
get the topic.
it's just some of the information. I think we asked a lot more questions. We asked a lot of questions. We asked a lot of questions about trucks and stuff.
And,
That was good.
yeah, and I do want to be clear though, guys. Finance committee and the select board serve a different role when it comes to determining the value and advancing a funding source, identifying, reviewing, making a determination. Our review, our purview includes that area. Our purview includes kind of weighing in and saying, gee, you know, this doesn't make a lot of sense to us and it affects the overall ranking of this request. I'm telling you also that at the same time, I don't think it will make a large impact
Right.
in the current year. However, we go to austerity budget, this is a tool we're gonna wanna have.
Yeah.
Because funding sources may become
It might.
a
Scarce.
very big issue.
But
So it's a way to say, I like the project, but I don't like that we have to do an override to get,
Yeah,
to get
very
it.
good point.
Right,
And it's
okay,
more
so there we go.
symbolic vote because the points are relatively.
Okay, all right.
So that's, does that, yeah. Very helpful, yeah. Summarize.
Yeah, I'm really good at being a contrarian.
Funding sources. This came up, I'm not sure. It's interesting. This actually came up from Peter McEachern back in the day.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
Which is the idea of in-house contracted. I know I brought it up with respect to some of the projects.
Yes.
Individually and, you know, some of the engineering part, just by way of example, when we're spending millions of dollars on engineering, that money might be, we're not going to wait, just giving you an example, we're not going to, in our evaluation, we may have brief discussions on the topic, but we're not going to weigh into ranking with a value at this level. But the concept is you can express some level of valuation if something is done in-house. And for instance, we have a project that's heavy on engineering. It's literally millions of dollars. And it doesn't necessarily need to be, if we had the resources in-house, you could amortize out what is an annual salary, what are the benefits, what are the housing costs, and find that if you have 5 of these projects, depending on the scalability of the engineering required, that we might really benefit from bringing this type of thing in-house. Not tomorrow, not for this request. This is about making a valuation and recommendation on changes in the future too. That's my thoughts on this. Your thoughts?
Well, I think it would help as a sales tool also at the town meeting to be able to say, we're doing this project internally, Public Works is taking care of it. So we are managing the price as best as we can. That's a,
How many of those do we have?
what?
How many of those do we have? Big,
A few.
big capital projects.
But
Not-
well, I only use the big one because that
No, but
comes to mind, but there
Yeah.
might be small stuff.
smaller ones, yeah, okay.
And
Yeah.
then, yeah, because then you get that, oh, we could do that study for $3,000.
I guess.
Okay, I mean, again, we're gonna have a chance to bite at this again. I wanna get some direction. I wanna get some direction from a brief discussion of each of these, pin them down to the extent we can. And if it was a can of worms, no, it's a can of worms, it's gonna need some development and some notes.
I got a question.
Yeah,
I mean, how often in-house are we doing a study?
And I didn't mean so much a study, I was being sarcastic about the study comment.
Okay,
But I'm talking about like if we're doing, like they do a lot of infrastructure work internally for like system repairs, sewer system repairs, things like that.
Yeah.
And then I think I was impressed.
yeah. All right.
Well, it would certainly let us see a ratio
Yeah.
of.
I mean, that is case by case right there.
Because often it's the expertise.
Yeah, and it's
And the ability
But
for staff.
someday, when we've solved the housing problem.
yeah. I mean, really, I think this is really looking at a request that comes in. If you look 20 years out, you say, is this an item that could be done in-house? Or are we gonna come, for example, this is a crazy example, but can you imagine if we had ability to in-house to like do our own roads, and pave our own roads? We know that's huge expenses every single year,
Yes.
right? And yeah, outlay, you gotta get, staff, but think about if we were able to fulfill that. So, I mean, if anything, this is great for, future.
I look at it, it's the cocktail that gets the party started. And what I mean by
Yeah,
that
just
is-
in finding,
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah,
pick
yeah,
out
yeah.
those things that, what
I
can we do? And maybe that's the question that that you posed to the department heads, like, could this be some, or what would this take to be in-house? What do you need? Do you need 3 extra guys, 10? Can you do it with existing staff? And what do you need for equipment? But that's.
And you might be able to, if we had an engineering department, like big cities do, you would do many of these things internally. But if they could hire someone temporarily, put on staff as a consultant to do some of the work, you wouldn't have to go out and get a huge contract for it, but there's some things you do need to use contracts for. But we should be looking to see,
Yeah,
could we bring somebody in?
We're getting in the weeds. And I find with engineering, it's an interesting conversation because there's a lot of different types of engineers.
Yeah.
And, you can hire a civil engineer, but you also need, an
You always need a
just while we're in the weeds, so
Yep.
that flows out there from
Good
that I was bringing, is
get us out of the weeds.
maybe, and no, I'm gonna dig us in first, is, maybe we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on engineers. Well, if we're forward looking and we have the discussion, maybe that discussion results in on a 5-year timeline. I'm going to use complete hyperbole and exaggeration, that we spend 20 million of that to buy a town, call it an empty town in Illinois, and fill it up with engineers. And their cost of living is a third of what it is on Nantucket, so our dollar goes much further. And they all work remotely. And then there's, I mean, it's about discussion and trying to guide future as much planning and results as much as anything we're doing today or next year. And that's really what will we get to that level of discussion? I hope not. And is it something, we can debate including or not? Yes.
Yeah.
It's not something
I do have a time constraint.
Okay. We're here only as long as we want to be.
I was
here on time. I was just gonna say I was here on time. Where were you?
So the other one was incentivizing forward-looking planning and reporting requests, including entry to the 5-year SIP. I think this is really more of a general policies and procedures resulting in a schedule or replacement. Okay, so this was the nut of it, is a subset of information that's created by the department heads, so that it informs. It's kind of like the capital needs assessment done by a department head level. It enters it into that concept of scheduled replacements. It enters it into the concept of this is information that's filtering back to finance so that they have an idea of, hey, look, we don't need to know if, and I'm not saying they need to do this, but the idea is finance sees, okay, department heads have put in these details of capital assets for the next 5 years that we can summarize by a line item, vehicles, buildings, and then finance can put those into out years 3, 4, and 5 perhaps, as opposed to having a request by request by request in 5 years out on the capital improvement program. The DPW needs 3 Ford Rangers. Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me to have that level of detail in the out years. So the idea would be that over time, we're trying to develop, we're making a recommendation. This is up to obviously town management, that department heads develop these lists. They detail them out, they project out the timelines. Those turn into a summary form that is then entered into the SIP so that we can accurately track from the bottom up what our costs are going to be on 5 years, or what our requests are, and perhaps what the cost will be on a 5-year SIP. Because the whole purpose of this is to be planning costs at least 3 years out. 5 years, I think, is frankly of low utility because we don't know what the market's going to be, so on and so forth. But I think trying to go with a capital improvement program of 3 years when some communities are doing 10 is 5 seems like the sweet spot. So I think that was the concept in this. And what that does is it incentivizes forward-looking planning and reporting. Because then department heads who've done this are going to be in the new scheduled replacement category that we subcategorize. And then that would add, because we made a change. Okay, scheduled replacement, we took out scheduled replacement, we renamed it. But this would be an opportunity to work scheduled replacement in with subcategories. There's differences, different people, depending on what type of capital asset it is. And for instance, scheduled replacement could be its useful life is exceeded, or it will be exceeded. Scheduled replacement could be it's on a plan somewhere. The idea is that we can dig into that a little bit more, a little bit of granularity, again, either as a category or as a subcategory, and we can give it a value. The bigger picture is we're trying to assign a value that then can be used for points that can incentivize a culture where these things are planned out in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Which is one of the things we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Specific strategic plans, exactly the same, just transpose specific strategic plans over scheduled replacements. It's a higher level of granularity. Well, the suggestion here is this becomes a category. It may be a subcategory of another category, and then it has subcategories. Select board, coastal resilience, NPDC, and everybody gets a chance to kind of weigh in with their perspective on valuation. It may be, there might be other, it may be a state plan, Commonwealth strategic plan, who knows?
Housing production
Plan. So it gives us, again, an opportunity to, Parks and Rec.
We have lots of plans.
So on any feelings against for?
No, I mean, I think, maybe do we have to rank it or do we just?
No, right now it's just to get an idea of what we feel is.
How many strategic plans does it align with is probably.
Yeah, I have a feeling you're still gonna run into the gray area. Under this a little bit.
Sure.
Maybe.
And on the, how many, basically, the more it aligns with, the more you get points, because you're hitting off select board, NPDDC, housing production, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I don't, you know, all of our history with town politics is varies a lot. And we all have an idea. We know you are well aware of a lot of plans.
Yeah.
I'm aware of some plans, you know, so I can do that, but some plans I'm not.
It's a lot of reading
Yeah, yeah,
if you're gonna.
but some plans I'm not privy to.
But-
And I just
but-
don't know about it. And so that's where that just gets a little gray for me. You know.
That's why, to
Some-
me, it feels more like a checkbox that the department head says it aligns with this plan, this plan, this plan. And if you're like,
Yeah, that's
how does
Yeah,
a
good.
truck align with the housing production plan? You can go do research, but
true.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there are, I think that might be the upshot is that we create more checkboxes. And maybe it isn't actually
A ranking. Yeah.
So that's a
Yeah.
good idea too.
Yeah.
The next one, what time are you on here?
I gotta be out of here at 5 after, 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes. Howard, these are, the next two are yours. Funding model, I've made the notes for, ignore the notes in the right hand. Those were based on some discussion, Brian
Yeah.
brought up. I'm just trying to get a better understanding of funding model segmentation, incremental and phased, and how you see that relating to what we
I'm gonna give
do.
you two examples, because I remember, it just happens that I remember them. On the incremental, if you remember, we were looking at the airport housing. And, it was, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why I remember that, but it was huge.
Oh, I remember.
And it was like, how in the world are you gonna use all of that money all at one time? Oh, well, we got it all contracted and we're ready to go. And I said, oh, that's really nice, but you know, some things have to happen before other things have to happen. And, oh, no. So I believe that people should be telling us, you know, and defending when they really need the money. And if in fact they need it in its entirety because they're letting a contract and municipal law requires that, or whether they don't. And my other connected point to that is, if it's a project with a large capital cost and it can be done in stages, we can approve it in stages subject to the next, you know, going back and re-looking at it and saying, we approved this last year and we liked it, but we just wanted to manage our budget better. And I think when we have huge expenditures, that will help us better.
Just, if I may,
Please.
just, in stages, great, but, we need to know the big picture.
Yes.
I don't want to say, well, it's gonna be, you know, oh, this stage is 1,000, this is
That's what I
1,000,
said.
this one's 300,000.
I think that we should be in a position to approve it in advance for the subsequent phases.
Yeah.
But manage when the money is actually going out, or when the money is actually being borrowed or earmarked.
Yeah, but I'm not sure in procurement that works, that they have.
No, that's why I said.
They have to have that,
So sometimes, someone gave me an exception to it. I don't know what the rule is.
yeah.
We'd have to look into it.
To enter into the contract, you probably have to have authorization for the entire contract.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah,
don't
you're right.
necessarily have to have all the funding in place for those.
Right, but but they don't always borrow it up front. They borrow it out over time.
Well,
You know, for instance.
Noah was taking it all at one time.
On that.
But I get what you're after.
Conceptually, I think it's gonna be important. When you said stages, you said phases, are you referring to the second line item, or is that?
To
what-
me, you could consolidate them all.
Okay, so I wanna suggest that it's gonna be important we are consistent with our vocabulary words. Phase, we typically use as to indicate a different meaning, and that will be recorded in our alphanumeric. So phase typically is a request. Phase 1 is 1 year, phase 2 is another year. So I would suggest that
So that's a defined term that we use.
well,
I didn't know that.
yeah, no, that's why I'm bringing it up. So I would suggest for the purposes of this discussion, we would look at we would use the word stages as opposed to phases,
So-
because it doesn't conflict with.
So I
other-
might say, ascertain whether there's opportunities for incremental staging. Of capital cost,
Okay, say that again, please.
opportunities for incremental staging. of total capital requirements.
Incremental state funding?
Staging. Because you said don't use phase, so I use staging.
Gotcha. Say that again, incremental state, I've got an audit.
Of total capital costs or total capital requirements.
And then phased,
So that's that's the point. They're not 2 points, there's 1 point.
no, but since we have it here, is there any value in, having another look in, other than the alphanumeric coding, but phased? Is there any value in having a brief discussion now or in the future?
Right.
On
I think
another
Christie said
window?
there is.
Yeah,
You said that you would want to know if it's a multi-phased project, what the total project is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
yeah.
well, yeah,
And we should.
oh, yeah. I think that
Very
would be part of the.
Yeah, we're gonna build one field. And then we're gonna build another field. What's the
Right.
total
Yeah.
cost of
Or
the development of the
there's
field?
5 buildings in the development and we're gonna do
Well-
one this year and 2 next year. And
Yeah,
The airport is a great example.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a chunk of land over there. and
Yeah.
We saw that tiny little window of what's proposed, and it would be beneficial, I think, for everyone to have a better idea of what the bigger picture is. So.
oh, and the front loading of all the infrastructure was what made the number so outrageous.
Huge. And you.
Correct,
Yeah.
Right?
yeah, yeah,
They had to do all of the
infrastructure.
But it's funny,
infrastructure work.
They had all the upfront infrastructure work consolidated with the total project cost, when in fact.
That was poorly
Right.
presented.
Yes.
to us.
So my big beef of stuff like this is empire builders. People who run departments or budget line items who pad them and make them bigger because they want to protect their domain. They don't want to have to come back and ask again.
Probably best that we don't use names. It's just saying.
Right. So that's the.
You were talking about like the Acme builders.
Well, like, you know, I've had a lot of experiences where we put together, we're bidding something, for instance, and we put together a budget and it's huge. Well, why is it huge? Because every single different department put a contingency in there. And then there's a contingency on top of that. So if you know where the money is buried, you can make a better, more efficient, more costly judgment.
Yeah.
And that's all.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so I'll put these together and then I think we're gonna be able to distribute that pretty soon. Any other comments or thoughts we wanna have towards?
You
I
only
just have a question
Yeah.
on one of our items. It's not really on this. Culture, tradition, legacy, heritage,
Mhm.
that item. And I'm just curious, do you guys pull out, like, do you think about all those when you vote, or do you think of like one word? Is there one that's prevalent in your rating?
Well, so what we did, just to bring Brooke up to this, is they have. It's like the red, black, and the white peppers each have a little different. There's a little something different. Heritage, tradition, legacy.
They're a little something different.
Well, but essentially it's something that is being passed down. It's an asset that what existed or the use existed and we're looking to preserve. Culture is a
Preservation.
little bit different.
Yeah.
So so what we did is we grouped. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna group these 3 on the line item. With a dash. Or we did a comment and then we did a semicolon, culture separate.
Can I just play my progression?
Please, yeah.
So I would lean towards, what is Old Nantucket? What does this cover Old Nantucket and the things that we'd like to see remain? We don't need to change this. This is something that is good to be around. But I've also picked up this past year, I picked up on the word legacy, not thinking back, but thinking the legacy of our decision, looking out. How do I want that?
Right.
I want to make a good decision now for whoever's doing this in 20 years or 10 years.
Or are you preserving the legacy
know-
of those that came before
It's
us?
the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Is it
But it's a-
prospective or
It
retrospective?
is, but I never really took that and thought forward of it.
Yeah.
And I do now, and it does alter my, my voting on that item.
Especially in Nantucket.
Yeah,
Especially
yeah,
more
but
than-
I still value the old Nantucket, tradition and.
Yeah.
Legacy. But I've also thought, legacy,
But it's the preservation of heritage, tradition and legacy.
Yeah.
Like they kind of it's preservation of these three things
Yeah.
and an item the word tradition might speak to you more as a subset of that preservation mentality.
yeah, yeah,
In any
Than
case,
heritage.
high.
yeah, I just was
They're
curious how you guys.
Totally
Put that.
different. Okay, I'm sorry.
Got that note in there. I think our next meeting is gonna be very brief. It may just be that I circulate this and, we, get back. I think we'll just get together and finalize it. Say, yeah, this is what we want. We did a vote. We move forward with it from there. Okay. All right, with that said, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
On paper, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously. Thanks, everyone. Sue, thank you.
Bye, Sue.